Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute and Library, the name of my channels on those two websites is Comic Freak. Today we're going to be talking about, I'm reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog the movie. My belated review of it after basically a week. So, let's get down and, hash out what this movie was. This movie was good. We start out on Sonic's, birth world, where he's being raised by this, basically Al from the Owls of Goulaloo, that CGI movie that came out a few years ago. I mean, it's not actually a real character there, but in all honesty, a lot of people have made comparisons to the way this owl looks and the one from that movie, The Owls of Goulaloo. I know I'm not pronouncing that name right, so I'll just keep using it anyway because it's just funny. Either way, she's the protector of Sonic, and, Sonic was out running around the island where they were hiding because apparently they are, for some reason, going to be hunted by these people. You can see the masked furry people behind them about to attack with bows and arrows, while little Sonic here, who's now just a child, is giving his surrogate mother, the owl who was protecting him, a nice little flower. It's all cute and nice, and the island looks like the original Green Hills zone from the video game. It's too bad we can't just stay in this world. I kind of would rather have been be a Sonic the Hedgehog movie set in his own world completely, not like Masters of the Universe where He-Man, for some odd reason, ends up on Earth. I hate this plotline, but at least in this movie it actually works. Sonic the Hedgehog comes to Earth, and it explains why his enemy is a human named Dr. Eggman, or, in this movie, Dr. Ivo Robotnik. They keep calling him Eggman because of how his robots all look like eggs. I expect Eggman to end up being fat in the sequel, which they are already expecting to be released in a few years. Here we can see the grown-up version of Sonic after he gets to Earth. And, he ends up on Earth because, as I said, the bad guys discovered where they were because he was out running on the island. And, the owl tells him to use these rings that they can teleport across universes to open up a portal like a Stargate. And he goes through, and his last vision of her is as the gate closes. Classic storyline from a movie, a bit boring. But here, we end up on Earth now, and he ends up in a little town named, of all things, Green Hill Zone. And he really likes the place as he grows up. He ends up basically spying on people through their windows, and he watches TV shows and learns about what Earth is really like. A crazy old conspiracy theorist sees him and calls him the Blue Devil. And basically everyone else, including James Marsden, who's the detective here, calls him a crazy old man and laugh at him. Too bad he's actually right, and, Sonic even calls the crazy old man the most observant one of the bunch. Sonic is then running around the whole, town and just enjoying himself constantly, but he doesn't have any friends. So one day he gets sad at this because after a baseball game he was watching from a distance, he plays baseball by himself, and afterwards he just realized how stupid it is for a super fast, and he can play every position because of his super speed, can actually play a baseball game, how stupid it is still to play a game like this by yourself. And he gets angry, and he, runs around in a big circle and trying to see how fast he could go to, run off his anger. This causes an electromagnetic disturbance, and this causes the entire government to go nuts, and they call Dr. Ivo Robotnik, or should I say Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik, in on the case, and they ask him to find out what's happening. And Dr. Eggman comes, and he uses his machines, and he basically scares Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog ends up going to James Marsden's house and basically hiding in his garage. He was going to use the rings to teleport himself to a mushroom world so he could be safe from what was happening, but James Marsden comes in and then shoots him with a tranq gun. And of course he loses the rings because the last moment before he fell unconscious, Sonic's last thought, and this is how you use the rings, is basically to think of San Francisco, and he opens up a portal there and all the rings fall through. See, James Marsden's character, the sheriff of the small town, was going to move to San Francisco to be a big city cop because he was being tired of being a small town sheriff. And what happens after that is James Marsden puts Sonic the Hedgehog in a big animal cage. And, this doesn't actually shut up Sonic the Hedgehog because he has hands, and he just opens the cage, and then he starts yelling at James Marsden because he was about to bugger out of that town and, be safe. But James Marsden just had to barge into his little garage, his own garage he owns, by the way, and then shoot him with a tranq gun, thus losing the rings that Sonic needed to basically use to teleport off the planet. through his own little stargates. Basically, he accuses James Marsden, and for some odd reason, even though James Marsden says he'll, help him, James Marsden actually decides to help him because even though he realizes this is a freaking alien that could be an invader from outer space, he decides to help him because he feels sorry for him because he can see that guy was going to actually leave the planet. Well, either way, Jim Carrey's Dr. Eggman comes in, attacks both of them because he figures out where Sonic the Hedgehog had been hiding. He basically comes in, uses his machines, and there's a big fight. Basically, what happens is Dr. Eggman was going to kill James Marsden's character, and, Sonic gets out and says, don't hurt him. Well, Jim Carrey obviously freaks out at seeing an alien, and James Marsden punches him in the face. Afterwards, Dr. Eggman says that he's never lost a fight since he was a kid because when he was a kid, after he got beat up by a bully, he used a bunch of machines to basically make sure that kid was eating through a straw for at least a half a year. And he then goes after both of them. Here, the movie becomes a buddy cop movie, and they have all these wacky adventures after I basically set up what happens in the first part of the movie. So they go, and they basically get into fights, and they basically have a fun time. And still, all the trouble that Sonic is causing James Marsden's character, you have to ask yourself, why is James Marsden putting himself through this? I guess it's because he likes cute animals, and his wife too, because eventually, when he meets back up with her, because she was basically looking at houses over in San Francisco because they were going to move there soon. But before we get to the rest of the movie, I'll just say this. Why you're wondering why Sonic the Hedgehog, a character known for having super speed, is traveling around with James Marsden? Well, he likes James Marsden and thinks of him as his best friend. Plus, the fact that you see here, James Marsden just says the San Francisco is that way, and Sonic runs and basically runs into the Pacific Ocean because he has no idea where he is, even though he's been living on Earth for years. And if I had super speed, I would have been, traveling all over the place. I might have been living in Green Hill Zone, but I would have at least made myself known about the lay of the land. But of course, he was hiding from villains. But I would have probably still done at least looked at a map. Either way, this, causes James Marsden to actually decide to help the little blue hedgehog because he was, sad for the little blue guy being drenched in salt water. And if you're wondering where Eggman is, he's disparaging his own assistant because he's angry because he lost to a blue hedgehog and a small town sheriff. But they find a quill that actually James Marsden's character had found earlier before he'd actually officially met Sonic the Hedgehog, and they realize it was pumped full of energy, and they use it to basically track and find Sonic. Also, Jim Carrey's character, Dr. Eggman, uses a way to siphon the energy from the quill that basically is still connected to Sonic and his speed powers and uses it to basically power a bunch of machines. And they use them to, make the classic Dr. Eggman carrier pod. You know, that thing he's always traveling around in, only this one looks more like a jet plane instead of a big round ball. Well, you get the idea that Eggman is called Eggman because everything is round and egg-shaped. Either way, they go after Sonic the Hedgehog, and there's a tremendously huge fight. Basically, James Marsden and his wife, the character who's looking for a house for them to live in when they move to San Francisco, she decides to help him as well, even though the reasons why James Marsden's and this woman's, reasons for helping Sonic the Hedgehog are flaky and, kind of not really real established, only be the fact that they feel sorry and they think he's a cute little critter. There's a little girl who's basically the niece of James Marsden's wife's character, and she gives Sonic some new shoes. Either way, after all of this and they get the rings back, there's a huge fight where they basically use the rings and teleport all over the Earth. And Eggman is basically using lasers that you would see from the video game on Sonic and basically traveling and teleporting. And, he keeps up with him because he uses the power of the quill to give his own flying vehicle super speed almost comparable to Sonic, but not quite. Either way, they teleport all the way back to Green Hill, and that's where the fight ends because, a classic ending here where Sonic uses his bounce and his speed jump and bashes, Dr. Eggman and his flying pod through a warp zone into, of all things, Mushroom Planet. Yes, a planet filled with mushrooms. You can see them right behind him. And this is where the movie ends. Dr. Eggman shaves his head. His well, mustache goes nutty, and he basically becomes a thinner version of the Dr. Eggman we have from the comic books. So, but if he spends a year there, he's probably going to end up becoming the fat Eggman in the sequel. This movie was good. It's one of the better movies I've seen in the last few years. It's not quite as good as The Joker, but it's a good family movie that you should really check out if you have the chance. I enjoyed it. I immensely love it, and I want them to make sequels to this movie, and I hope they keep agenda politics out of this, and I hope SEGA does make a cinematic universe that's shared with all their, well, owned properties that they have and stuff. I think it'll be a great thing to see besides the MCU movies, because I think this is even better than the MCU movies if they keep up with this kind of pace. Because this movie might not be the best movie, but it is a good movie, and I think it, well, certainly makes a lot of the MCU movies look bad in comparison. I could name a few, but I basically name-dropped and insulted them enough. If you like this review and video, please subscribe to me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics, They're Bad For You. Then go over to BitChute and Library and subscribe to my channels there. They're both named Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications, hit that like button, and leave some comments down below. And please, share this video. Share it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it'll do the most good. Now, listen closely. Keep checking back in all my future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.